I've decided to finish up this season in today's episode. It's just not a particularly good season for us, and apart from a couple of pitchers, we're really the same team as we were last year, and there's just not much more I feel like I'm going to learn from this season. The team just needs a little bit more development before we are competitive, and I kind of want to get this rookie class, particularly Garrett Guerra, onto the team because I think he's going to be an improvement over what we have, and I think I'm ready to see that improvement rather than continuing to watch this team play. I feel like we've seen the story of this team as is plenty of times. Now, one thing I did do at the start of this episode off camera was I elevated Edgar Torres here. I still think he's going to be a guy that could have some struggles in terms of his watching experience, but I think he might sim pretty well. And so we're going to put that to the test, see if he does. And I did bring Esteban Acevedo back to AA. He just really struggled this year after a pretty solid start. We brought him up. He pitched 35 innings. Of course, really small sample size last year. I thought he was good in them. He just really struggled this year. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to develop a little bit more. Still like Esteban Acevedo for our future quite a bit. I just think he could maybe use a little bit more time developing. So for the last 2 months of the season, he'll be down at AA. Hopefully he can start to get his mojo back. And then I think the next guy that we'll be looking to bring up will probably be Diego Moya. I think he's on a cold streak right now, so this wouldn't be the time, but he's pitched pretty solidly at AA. Decent strikeouts per inning. ERA, whip's pretty solid as well. Really good WAR. So I think, let's just give these pitchers a little bit more time to develop. Let's finish off this year and see how we can look starting next year. Williamson now, a few starts in, he's 2-1. He's pitched 19 innings, allowed 21 hits, 7 runs, 18 strikeouts. WHIP is quite high, but ERA is pretty good. He does have a positive WAR. I just want to see kind of how he finishes off this season. In terms of gameplay, I'm not yet decided on what I want to do here, but there's going to be a lot to talk about in this episode apart from gameplay, so I don't think we'll have a ton of gameplay in this episode. But if you look at the wild card race, we're not even close. 9.5 games back. The Blue Jays are the only team worse than us in this race. And I just think this season's done, and we're at the point of this series where I'm not super interested in following a lost season very closely anymore. I think we're at the point of the MLB the Show 23 life cycle where let's get to the part where maybe we can be a little bit good, better, a little bit sooner here in these episodes. So with that said, let's kick off the simulation of this episode. We have now simulated through August, and we are 61-74 here. Had some nice wins. Got a little series win here against the Rockies. Swept a mini series here against the Cubs. Won a series against the Yankees, against the Twins, and against the Royals. So several series wins. A pretty solid August for us. Taking a look at what happened stats wise, Kevin Sandoval is injured, broken forearm, so his season is done. He's gonna end with 100 hits, 13 home runs. He definitely wasn't as good here in season 2 as he was in his first season, and this is where it's gonna end for him, unfortunately. But still, I think a very good player. Was, of course, our one all-star of the season. Despite his down season, he's still one of the most impactful players on the team. Mosquera is up to 20 home runs. He is on a hot streak. Also the first player on the team to get to 90 overall. No surprise. Power is not going up as much as you'd like. Needs to hit at least 5 home runs to improve on last season's home run total. These numbers are pretty dang similar across the board for his hitting. So didn't get much better as it like fielding as well. I mean, this is almost an identical season from the first, so some consistency there. Rincon, up to 28 home runs. I think he's improved this year for sure. WAR is still not as good, but we've got another month to play. So Williamson, update on him. He is doing okay, not great. 4.34 ERA. Whip's still a bit high, but he does have that positive WAR because he strikes people out. Has 45 strikeouts in 47 innings, so that strikeout success is translating here to the bigs. Alden Evans hitting over 300 with 10 home runs. He, in much less at-bats, has doubled his power, has greatly increased his average, and so, I mean, the focus of the draft was to replace his position because I thought he was awful in season 1. Then he comes around and picks things up dramatically, and so I think he's created maybe a little bit of a battle as to who Guerra is going to replace. It could be Evans, it could be somebody else on the team. He's at least made it interesting there. Gil, we'll take a look at him. He is doing okay, maybe slightly worse than last year, but not by much. Don't think it's going to be him that gets replaced by any means. I think he's a good two-way player for us. Great contact, great fielder, has some speed to him as well. McIntyre, of course, he's back. His at-bats are actually pretty similar. He'll probably up his at-bats by the time, unless he gets injured again. This year is done. Power's increased a bit, as has averaged. OPS is down, though. And his WAR is already surpassed that of last year. Other players to look at, we've got Darren Roman. His overalls are down, and I don't think he deserves that, so he might win Surprise Player of the Year this year, mostly just so that he can not be regressing, because I don't think he deserves it. Through 2 years hitting, I mean, he's hit 20 plus home runs each year. OPS in the 700s. If it was in the 800s, maybe if he can get this OPS in the 800s, I think he'll be our de facto Surprise Player of the Year, just so that he can not be going down in all of his stuff, because I don't think he really deserves it. But that will be the challenge. If he can increase his OPS, we'll give it to him. And now let's go ahead and get into September. But of course, with September comes September call-ups. And so it's time to do those. Let's take a look at our AA roster, maybe who could be called up. Bring up Esteban Acevedo. He was solid in his 12 games. He didn't start. That was interesting. He pitched 31 innings and he was good in them. Sorry if you can hear my stomach. I don't know what's going on, but don't know if it's going to be him. We've seen him struggle. It could be Diego Moya time. Just give him, in fact, it will be. Just going to give him a shot. Why not? He's one of our high upside pitchers. It's September and a lost season. This is when you give guys a chance, right? He's already kind of, he's already on the 40-man roster. We're already using options to have him down here. So let's give him a chance. In terms of position players, I don't know if there's anybody here. Did they automatically put my guy Beasley at AAA? Yes, they did. Why does the game make changes, man, when you ask them not to? His OPS is below 700. I don't know if he's quite ready yet. He was supposed to be in AA, but the game promoted him for no reason. He's probably our next best position player, though. That's the problem for these September call-ups. To do this. In terms of position players, yeah, it's him. He's the highest rated guy. So instead, we're just going to bring up somebody because we have to in a September. I'm not going to rush somebody's development. We'll just bring Rivas back up. We brought him up when McIntyre was injured, and he'll just end the season for us. We still need one more. Is that because of the injury? Dang. My goodness. September call-ups this year are difficult. Here we go. Sanchez, come play a couple innings in September for us. Let's get into the September simulation. And we would finish the season 71 and 91. At the beginning of the episode, I said I wasn't sure about what the gameplay situation would be, and I just decided that there wouldn't be any. We'll talk about the team in general, and this will kind of be a state of the roster update and what I think where we're at here as we enter what's going to be season 2030, which will be season 8 of this team. And so let's talk about everybody's stats, where they ended off the year, and what I think of kind of each position. Let's go through our lineup here. McIntyre ends up positives across the board, up to an 87 overall, and his power was much improved, although this is on more at-bats. But average is up, OPS is up a tiny bit, and I know it was down when we just checked on him. WAR is up by over 1, 2.7 WAR is solid. And then Evans, he was on fire last time, and it looked like that stayed. He did not have any home runs, though, in September, but his average stayed above 300, up to a 4.0 WAR this year after being negative last year is a massive jump for him. It was, of course, last year's disappointment of the year, and I guess he took that personally and came back and had a rebound year. Could make him this year's surprise player of the year to get him that potential that he lost last year back. I think that could be a solid move because I think he's now at his potential after last year. No improvements to his power. He still has, the same problems that he had before, where he can do one thing. He can contact hit really well. He has no power. He's a minus in the field. And it's just kind of a guy that can only do one thing. How positive can he be on your team? Well, he had a 4 WAR this year. So despite the fact that he's much better, I still feel like the problems that I had with him last year, I still have with him. He was just much more productive this season. But I think he's certainly in the running. Alberto Rincon ends up with -3 power versus lefties on a year where he hit 31 home runs. Okay, MLB the Show. Whatever. But he's got much better against righties. I guess he's a really good righty hitter. Not so much against the lefties, I suppose. Got that slugging above 500, OPS 874. His WAR actually went down from last year though. But I mean, he's hitting in the 3 spot for a reason. He combines average with power, over 100 RBIs for the second straight year for him. Really good. Mosqueda up to a 91 overall. He ends up positives across the board as well. His power versus righties did not increase at all. His home runs did go up by 4, so we had a really strong September. 8 home runs in the month. Average is up. OPS is up about 3.5%. You love to see it. WAR is up by about 1 as well. I think he's coming into his own as the best player on this team, and that's what you love to see from your generational prospect. He's still got some improving to do. Gil did not get much better as a hitter this year, unfortunately. In terms of his hits are pretty similar. I mean, just a 13 difference at bats, really similar, just 9 difference. Home runs down a little bit, average down a little bit. So I think, had just a little bit worse of a year across the board. Still don't think he's a bad player by any means. Still positive WAR at 3, which you like to see. Roman, he did not get his OPS up above 800, so his numbers are down across the board. I still think he's a really solid power hitter, something that we desperately need, and so, but he's kind of on the short list of guys that Guerra could replace. I thought for sure when we drafted Guerra it would be to replace Alden Evans. Now I think there's an argument to be had between Roman and Evans being the guy that's replaced. Evans was really productive, but he has a skill set that we are very good at. depending on, you can't see the rankings now, but we were either first or second in contact pretty much throughout the year. And that's all he does. So he just makes his strength even better for us. Or Darren Roman helps cover up one of the biggest weaknesses on the team. And I think it's a really good debate as to who he should replace in the lineup next year. Of course, if he ends up being good enough as an 18-year-old to enter our lineup, which isn't necessarily a given. Boyer had his first full year with us, hit 14 homers, batted just .233, OPS sub 700, and with the bigger sample size, his production did decrease. 0.4 WAR, not terrible by any means, and of course he's one of our lowest rated players, so I'm not going to say just because it was a bit, of an unproductive or not great year that he was disappointing. He kind of started out of necessity. He's not like this great player. Of course, he's up to a 76 overall. He wasn't playing at that throughout the year. I think he's getting better slowly, and I'm fine with his progress, but want to see that continued improvement next year. Needs to get better. Still our best middle infield prospect that we have on the team. That's definitely one of the positions that's been avoiding me in these drafts. I've been trying for like the last 3 drafts to find a sick middle infield prospect. Haven't been able to do it. I think Mosqueda could play that eventually, like maybe play second base or shortstop if we find another third base prospect. And who knows, maybe Guerra plays third base and Mosqueda slides to second, and then we remove Victor Benitez. I'm actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe one of these guys, probably Benitez, gets taken out. Mosqueda moves to middle infield. You know what? I'm thinking of some things, and of course, there's a lot of options. So I want to know what you guys think. Who maybe where we should play Guerra and who should be replaced by him. I think we have plenty of options. But moving down the line, Victor Benitez improved across the board. He's still basically in our lineup because of his fielding, not much else. But his hitting wasn't bad, not a power hitter by any means. A 251 average is fine. OPS was down quite a bit though for him. WAR did increase probably because of his fielding, I would say. His fielding did go up a bit. So I think he's somebody that's kind of a low upside, but you can count on him to be a pretty good fielder, although he has made some mistakes in our watched episodes for sure, but a good fielder overall. And then, of course, the last guy here, I guess he's not going to be on here because he's on the injured list, so we'll take a look at him on this screen, is, of course, Kevin Sandoval. Talked about him being injured, so his numbers haven't changed. They were down a little bit this year, for sure, but I mean, in terms of WAR, he's still one of the more impactful players on the team, and I love Kevin Sandoval. He's easily in my top 5 of best players that I'm excited to have on this team. One of our older guys, now at 26 years old, but he is 3rd overall on the team, with only behind Mosqueda and Rincon. And we have all these first round picks that are the highest overalls on the team, which is no surprise. Let's now talk about our pitching this year. Buster Pringle had himself a heck of a rebound year after being really bad last year, I thought. For an ace, these aren't like atrocious, never play in the MLB again numbers, but they're not great at all. Really improved a ton this year. Still, of course, pitching in that number 1 spot for us in that ace role. 3.9 ERA with 1.33 whip. Absolutely acceptable numbers. 155 strikeouts in 200 innings. A little low, but not terrible. Actually had a positive WAR where he was basically even last year. Strikeouts per 9 a little bit up. Walks per 9 a little bit lower. Home runs per 9 lower. Just pretty much everything across the board just a bit better from Pringle this season. Williamson ends up with a strong finish to the year. He had 14 starts for us, pitched 91 innings, allowed 36 runs, struck out 83, 3.56 ERA, 1.46 whip, and got over a WAR in just kind of the 2 months and change that he was on the major league squad. And I think I mean, this is very, very, very clearly the pitcher we're building around in the future. And I think starting next year, he will be our opening day man. He will be our ace. This is the guy for us moving forward. Miguel Polanco, kind of, one of these placeholder pitchers. I'm hoping that starting next year, we can really have a rotation full of guys that we actually believe in long term, and that we can kind of move off of these placeholder pitchers. That's kind of why I wanted to finish this year, give these other guys just more time to develop so we can get to kind of the end game of this team a little bit sooner. Willis was remarkably similar, same ERA. Whip was a little bit higher though. WAR ended up being good, really improved his strikeouts per nine, but again, he's one of these placeholder guys. One of these guys that was not a placeholder, and we called him up just to give him a couple months, see if he was ready for the bigs or not with that overall. His numbers went up quite a bit in terms of his ratings this year. Wasn't great though in his action. The whip's not terrible, 1.38 whip, but ERA was pretty high for him. Negative WAR, low strikeouts per nine. Walks per nine are in a good spot though. I'm still undetermined whether he'll start the next year at the bigs or if he'll be the ace of that AA team. But this is an experiment that I wanted to do in this episode because his overall was high, but he has this really weird mix of ratings, and I wanted to see if he could work at the MLB level. I think it still just needs a little bit more. Maybe if we can get those hits per nine in the 60s, strikeouts per nine more in the mid to high 50s, control in the 50s, then we'd be talking with this guy. I think he can hit those numbers next year in his age 20 season, and then I think he'll be a better pitcher here in the bigs. It's crazy to think that this is our best pitching prospect just before Williams, and that was like such a needed pick for us. We needed a pitcher that actually looked like he could be a guy for us in the future. Continuing on here, we got Fernando Bruno. He ended up having not quite as good of a year. Of course, the reigning surprise player of the year after being kind of our lone good pitcher last year. Still's not terrible, especially when you compare him to some of the numbers that guys that we've previewed and guys that we've yet to preview that we will. Not terrible. His WAR did go down by quite a bit though, so wasn't able to capitalize, on his surprise player of the year campaign and kind of continue that momentum. Ended up kind of back and forth between starting some games. He started 19 of his 48 games and playing some long reliever as well. Juan Lima, another one of these placeholder pitchers. Awful. My goodness, we got to get guys like this just not pitching on the team anymore. Need some of these younger high upside guys to develop. In our bullpen, McCann did nothing. He did not play a game. He had 45 innings pitched. Ryan was solid, but he's reached his ceiling, so not much to say about him. Enriquez pitched 21 innings, wasn't great in them. Richie Rivera, really good, 2.91 ERA, 1.32 WHIP in his 43 innings. He had a 0.4 WAR, which isn't anything special, but he didn't have a ton of volume, but I think he was pretty good in his volume. I need to find a way to better space out, I feel like, these innings. Rodriguez only pitching 10 innings despite being a 74 overall is just not great. It's a bit, maybe we need to put guys with less stamina in here, because like these guys got 175 innings. Now he did start 19 games, to be fair, and he started 17, so it's not a super great comparison. But I want like guys like Rodriguez to get more of the bullpen innings. One of our best guys. Much improved ERA. WHIP is actually a little bit worse though. Just nothing for WAR. Ordonez. He's definitely drawn some hate from me. This is a pretty decent year from him. Of course, strikeouts per nine went down a bit, but seeing a couple of +6s, which is nice. ERA down, but whip was pretty bad. 39 saves to 4 blown saves, much better. I mean, he lost his job after having 4 saves and 10 blown saves last year. Much better from him. Still don't think he's this great closing player, though. His strikeouts per nine is up, walks is up as well. Home runs, he really did a better job limiting those, which you like to see. He's up to an 80 overall, so he's certainly got some good ratings. When I watch this guy play, I'm not confident that he closes out the game. I feel like a lot of these blown saves are when we're actually watching him. But there you have it in terms of the guys that played for us at the bigs. Of course, we still have a couple of other guys to talk about here. Some guys to check on their development. Esteban Acevedo is one of them. Dang it, dude. I hate how this game does this. Why can't I see people's minor league stats? Why do they get rid of them so quickly? Of course, Acevedo started 22 games for us. This season was very bad at the bigs. And so I think he starts next year on the AA team just to give him a little bit more, maybe get a couple like this hits per nine and strikeouts per nine in the 70s. I feel like based on these ratings, he should be a bit better. I don't know why he was so poor. Maybe that walks per nine. Of course, we know that's a very big rating when it comes to simulation. We've already talked about him. Let's talk about maybe let's check in on John May. He's getting up there in his age, of course. Could I see us giving him a chance at the bigs next year? Yeah, I could see it. Of course, I keep forgetting I can't see anybody's stats anymore. But just ratings wise, that low walks per nine and hits per nine combination is a tough one. It's the same problem that just like some of these bad combinations like Torres. His isn't the same combination. Of course, his walks per nine is excellent. Some of these weird combinations, man. Diego Moya had 11 games. He was more of a long reliever for us, pitched 27 innings and was very bad in them. Just wanted to give him September to see what he was like. And he needs more development, which is fair. He's only 74, doesn't need to be ready right now. And he's only 23 years old. Hopefully, though, he can be ready next season. Just looking at guys that can maybe be a season away. Driver played in 51 games as a long reliever for us. Just was not good, so we brought him down. And man, our pitching still remains. Like, if there's another really good pitching prospect next year, we might need to go for it again. We've spent so many picks on starting pitcher, and there's a lot of guys that have, we sort by potential on our pitcher. We have so many guys with a potential, which is why I'm like, maybe we don't need to take pitcher. But then you actually look at how many are kind of close to being there for us, and it just seems like we're still quite a ways away from having a good pitching rotation. Tom Williamson is kind of the lone savior in that group. It's tough stuff for us here in this series, finding pitchers. So if I could do this again, I'd maybe have taken one of those first round picks that we spent on a position player. I really prioritized trying to nail down our position players in the first round because I felt like pitching was something you can get kind of in like rounds 2, 3, and 4 better. Maybe would have spent one of those first round picks on pitcher. I don't know which one it would have been though, because our position players that we've taken in the first round have all been really good. Sandoval, and we took Sandoval, and of course McIntyre in the first round in the first 2 years. Came back and we got, I can't remember the order anymore, but we got Mosquera, we got Rincon in the first round. And then it's kind of, we started with the pitchers, right? And so I think I just started taking pitchers in the first round a little bit too late. We took them in the past 2 drafts before this one. And that was the first time draft 6 and 7, we took a pitcher in the first round. Probably should have invested a first round pitcher a little bit earlier in the franchise if I could go back and do it again. But again, I think the opportunity cost of missing on one of these sick position players that I've gotten in those first 5 drafts, I don't want to be without any of those guys either. It's just tough. A draft-only franchise in MLB the Show is tough. Ray Beasley, let's look on his ratings, still good contact, but he's kind of got the same problem that Alden Evans has, is he's good at contact, but what else is he doing for you? I just don't know yet, and so I think he needs a little bit more development. We have another guy who's one of our better power prospects. He got better against righties for sure, a little bit worse against lefties. His vision and discipline went up a lot, but his contact is really, really bad. Philip Jung, and of course you can't see his stats, I keep forgetting. I think that's it in terms of position players that were in the minors. A lot of our best prospects have already made it to the majors. We don't have a ton of, like, our farm system in the minors is not super fleshed out right now. So there you have it. Let's just sort by potential here. Let's see anybody else that I'm missing that has high potential we haven't talked about. Oh, that's just MLB roster. I'm on the wrong screen. All right, here we go. John May we've talked about. Yeah, I think we're chilling. Oh, that's 40-man roster again, dude. I keep looking at the wrong screens. What am I doing? Beasley we've talked about. Yeah, we're pretty good. We've looked at everybody that I think we need to look at. Castilla, really good year for him in terms of ratings. Now let's just take a look at where our team stands in terms of where we ranked in several categories as a team. Average wise, this team was 19th in the league at batting at 26%. Not terrible, but you certainly want to be higher than 19th there. We had a ton of at-bats. Runs wise, we were right smack dab in the middle of the league here. And then hits right there in the middle as well. In terms of hitting doubles, top 10 there. Pretty much I wanted to see this team be top 10 in a lot of categories. So we're good at hitting doubles, like where we're at there. Triples, thought we'd be a little bit higher on this because I feel like we have some contact and some speed, but maybe not the power to hit them triples. Home runs, I expect us to be very bad here. We're bottom of the league there. Actually, where are we? Yeah, 27th. There. We have a few guys that can hit, but then it drops off significantly. Like these 3 guys, all pretty solid. You see on the screen. After that, big drop off. Sandoval has some power to him. He'd kind of be the 4th guy, but not a ton on the team. RBIs, right smack dab in the middle. Second in the league in steals, though. You like to see that. Alden Evans, he's been really good at that for us. We were caught stealing 50 times, which is tied with a lot of people for 12th. So really good at stealing while being pretty good at not getting caught is a good combination for 2nd overall stolen base percentage in the league. Nice. Drawing walks, how do we do with this? Just outside the top 10, of course. That's another thing I'd like to be top 10 at. That's vision and discipline. I think we're pretty solid there. I think it comes with contact hitting. Like just maybe jump up a couple spots. That's all. In terms of striking out, smack dab in the middle. Slugging, this is not going to be something we're good at. 25th. On base percentage, I feel like we'll be solid. 13th. Something I'd like to be top 10 at. Often did we ground into a double play? Just curious. We were pretty much mid there. Top 5 in assists. In terms of putouts, we bottom of the league. Errors, how curious to see where we rank here. Actually, right in the middle. That's maybe a little bit surprising because I feel like our fielding's not great, but hey, I'll take it. Fielding percentage right there in the middle. ERA, oh boy, where do we rank here? We rank last in the league. Second to last. Suck it, Blue Jays. Somebody was worse than us in ERA. Let's go. Complete games. Williamson had 1. I feel like we'll be maybe jump this a little bit. Maybe get with Williamson's second year, maybe he'll get more than 1. Because he certainly has the stamina for it, and I think once he starts getting the ratings, which he might starting next year, we'll be heating up. Saves, 25th, not great there. Ordonez though with 39. Let's see. Coleman was better. Finn, Baker, Fairbanks, Wynn. Okay, so now we'll get to the top. Pretty much all these guys are better than him. But we're like these bottom teams. Ordonez had the most for most of these bottom teams, but once you get to the top teams, you can see not quite the top tier closer. Not that I expected him to already be a top tier closer, but there you have it. About middle of the pack for blown saves. How many hits did we allow? A lot. The worst. Tied with the Red Sox for the most hits allowed. Runs allowed. Second worst. Suck it, Blue Jays. Home runs allowed. Worst. And then allowing walks. Not the worst. This is one of our better pitching stats. It's 22nd. Let's go. The pitching is just terrible. We need to up the pitching. Our young prospects with the upside need to actually reach it. This is a struggle for us. Worse than the league in strikeouts. You don't love it, and then we'll be towards the bottom in win percentage. Tied with the Red Sox here for 27th. So there you have it. There's the stats and the awards. In terms of surprise player and disappointment of the year, I think Alden Evans deserves the +3 potential again. He came back and he did well, and I'm on the wrong thing. So he gets back up to 82 potential. He can improve a little bit more, and he gets a realistic shot at maybe coming back and being something for us this next season. Disappointment of the year? It's tough. Who wins disappointment of the year? Who was I the most disappointed in? I think Esteban Acevedo has the ratings. That's Fernando Bruno. I think Esteban Acevedo has the ratings to be better than he is. Much worse than he was in his 35 innings that he showed us last year. Man, I really don't want to decrease his potential, but I think he was the most disappointing player for us. And so he goes down to more mid-80s potential. Still, I think even with disappointment of the year, I'm still very, very interested in him being part of the long-term future. I just think he has an interesting rating combination. He can still go up 7 overall. So I think he can get good enough to be more of a middle of the rotation guy for us. But that's kind of all I want him to be in the future anyway. We kind of have Williamson and Torres, who I think can maybe take over the top couple of spots. He can be maybe that 3rd, 4th, 5th pitcher in the rotation. So even with his potential going down 3, I don't think it's going to impact how I view him long term. Just he had a rough year, and his potential is getting nerfed because of it. The last thing we'll do here is the offseason. We'll go through it relatively quickly here, and then we'll be ready for the next year of this franchise. The Dodgers end up winning the 2029 World Series over the Mariners. In terms of what we did in the offseason, of course, not as much action as every other team, as we don't participate in free agency. The one big move we made is we signed Tom Williamson to a big time 9-year contract, and with the descending numbers as we go along, so we could have him at a really good number, by 2037, 2038. By the time a lot of these guys will be expensive. And I think I've decided on what my idea of the best version of this team is going to be next year. And if you have different thoughts, then I'm glad to hear them, and I could fix them before, you know, the next season starts. But from a lineup perspective for position players, I think we have Kevin Sandoval play catcher. First base is Rincon with Darren Roman playing the DH spot. Second base, we have Blake Boyer. Third base, we'll have Garrett Guerra with shortstop Russell Mosqueda. And so, of course, moving Mosqueda to shortstop and Guerra to third. And then at left field, Alden Evans. Center field, McIntyre. Right field, Jason Gill. And I think that lineup could be very potent for us next season. And so that's kind of my idea for it for now. And I think that team could be very fun to watch. And I'm excited for it for sure. And now to wrap up this episode, we'll take a look at the draft lottery as well as where some of the bigger name free agents went around the league. Have those top 3 odds for the lottery, but we drop all the way down to 7. Some of that lottery luck that we've had earlier on in the series coming back to bite us here, as that was a pretty brutal drop. But hope you don't mind the fact that we skipped through kind of the end of this season. Again, I just felt like I'd seen this team play so many times. I kind of knew what they were, and I was excited to get Garrett Guerra in, and I was looking for games, you know, in August and September that I felt strongly that I wanted to see play out, and I just couldn't find any. The excitement for kind of next year's team, as well as maybe the lack of excitement for kind of the end of last season, made me want to maybe speed up season 7 a bit. But with this out of the way, we are now ready for season 8, a season I'm much more excited to do. I hope you are too, and we'll be coming out with those episodes next, and I will see you then.